A reminder of some of the things we talked about, maybe discuss them in a greater detail, and not a whole lot more revelation, because the truth is women are a lot more exciting and intricate than men are. It is proven that men change twice in their lifetime, between the ages of 17 and 21 is the first change, and the last change takes place between the ages of 37 and 45. A woman changes every 7 years. It is proven. Every 7 years. She goes through physiological, biological, emotional changes, and God made that so deliberately. And that is to ensure that the relationship is kept exciting and dynamic, so that the man can never become bored. Every 7 years, he gets a new woman in his life. That's the reality. So the chase continues. Because when you think you've gotten to know her, she's changing. So you enjoy her for 7 years, and then she becomes an improved version of herself in another 7 years.
Amen.
And that's God's way of ensuring that the relationship is kept dynamic. I'm very delighted to have my lovely wife with me. We celebrated 22 years of marriage. Last week? A few weeks ago. But there is nothing as beautiful as an intimate relationship that is working well. Nothing as exciting as an intimate relationship that is working well. There is no problem really with marriage. A lot of people complain. I've talked with people who say, no, I'm not going to get married. Marriage is problem. That's not true. There's no problem with marriage. The problem really is in how we relate with each other.
That's right.
It is how we communicate. And we love each other. In our most relationships, we started that way. We started loving each other. But I've learned over the years that love is not enough to keep a marriage or a relationship working. There are a whole lot of other things that goes into, because human beings, we are not static beings, we are dynamic creatures. And because we are dynamic, means we are changing all the time. We have to ensure that we are deliberate about the things that lend to a good relationship. And marriage is it's an essential and vital ingredient in a healthy relationship, but marriage is not enough. Because once we are going to be honest, many persons, not in this room, but many persons outside of this room, they are married to people who are driving them crazy. And it's just the way it is. It has nothing to do with love. They love people that are driving them crazy.
I know.
It is how we communicate. It is how we deal with the issue of managing conflicts. Conflicts are unavoidable in any relationship, because we are not the same. Of the 7 billion people on this planet, you will not find one person that is identical like you. They may look like you, but even someone that is cloned, I've learned that cloning does not guarantee that there is going to be uniformity of behavior and conduct and all of that. Even a cloned animal does not behave the same way, because there are a whole lot of things that goes into what informs behavior. Are you there?
Yeah.
So, expectations, or I should say unmet expectations, is at the root of most failed relationships.
Yes.
What is at the root of most relationships that fail? Expectations, or unmet expectations. And the truth is, every one of us, we come into relationships with certain expectations.
Yes.
And we do things for people in those relationships out of a desire to love and to serve them. And in our minds, we have attached a whole range of expectations to those relationships. But we don't always say it. We don't always say, well, because I'm doing this for you, I expect you to do that for me. But we have it in our mind.
Yes.
But we don't say it. So we expect that because we are doing a certain thing, or because we act a certain way, or because we demonstrate a certain commitment in the relationship, we are expecting that the person that we love and the person that loves will act in a manner that is in recognition of what we are doing. And it's not an unreasonable expectation. The problem, however, is that we have not been deliberate in how we communicate that expectation. So you hear people say things like, well, you ought to know me by now. No! No, there is no, because we are dynamic beings, it will take a lifetime for you to get to know the person that you are living with. Because I promise you this, you are still, regardless of how long you've been married, you are still living with someone who's pretty much a stranger. The only way you really know somebody is if you have an opportunity to really know their mind. And the mind is a very private place. You can only know how much they let you know based on what they're saying. And if they're not speaking, you generally start to read their actions. But that's a dangerous thing to do, because the actions are not always consistent with what they're thinking. I promise you, if you knew what your husband was thinking, you probably would have had a divorce a long time.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah?
And I'm very thankful to God that He does not allow the brain to be a public record. It's a very private place. And it's good. I said to someone recently, you don't say everything that goes through your mind. You don't. It's dangerous to do that. It's dangerous to speak to speak your mind. You have to filter it.
Yeah.
It's necessary to filter it.
I agree.
But because we are Christians, well, most of us are Christians, we are influenced and guided by the Spirit of truth.
Yeah.
So even as we filter, we ensure that the filter is not an exclusion of truth. Are you there?
Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was counseling with a young couple one time. The young man had found himself in a dilemma. He was married by this time, but when he was much younger, he had this girlfriend, and the relationship never did quite end. She just migrated, and they drifted apart. And then she came back for a funeral. Some relative had died, and they met and realized that even though they were now living in separate countries, the relationship had not quite ended. So he went home and began to share with his wife his challenges about the fact that this old girlfriend was back in the country, and he was confused because not sure how to relate with her now. And the wife says, well, take your clothes and go. If you want to go with her, go. And I said to her, you are crazy. Why are you pushing this man into the hands of a stranger? He is struggling with what he does not even understand. You have a responsibility at this point to ensure that you influence and impact him so greatly. All these years you're living with this guy, haven't you impacted and influenced him greatly enough to ensure that whatever is happening in his mind, that you steer him away from the confusion that's going on in his brain? Because he himself does not understand what he's dealing with. Are you there?
Oh, yeah.
So I think that there are times when we have to appreciate and understand that we have to be clear about the expectations we have, and be clear in how we express them. And you must make note of this one, because this is very important for you to know. An expectation that is improperly expressed is an expectation that will not be properly met. An expectation that is improperly expressed is an expectation that will not be properly met. So I always use this illustration. I might have used it last year. So my wife and I were watching television, and so she gets up to go to the kitchen, and I says to her, I'm thirsty, babes. And she says, okay. So after a few minutes she returns, and I says, where's the water? She says, what water are you talking? I said, but I'm thirsty. Yeah, you said you're thirsty, but you didn't ask me for any water. We have an expectation because we may have expressed an emotion. We make the assumption that the person we are in love with, that they understand the need. No. You can express an emotion without expressing a need. Are you understanding that?
Yeah.
And we get upset when the need is not met, because all we have talked about is I am hurting, and I am hurt, and I am upset, and I am offended. Great, great. You're telling me how you're feeling. Now tell me what you want. Okay, I would like you not to see her again. I would like you to delete your number from your phone. I would like you not to, are you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You have to be clear about stating the expectation. Well, you ought to know. You'd be surprised about the things we ought to know that we don't know. So we're talking about expectations. We're not so much different as you know, we make the assumption. If we really sit down and we look at the male species, you'll realize that we are not so much different from the female. There's some fundamental things that are very much the same. When I started to study human relationships and understand how the male and the female functions, I made the mistake because some of my early teachers also made that mistake of classifying the emotional needs of females and males and gave us a textbook solution as to how we can understand what is important to a man and what is important to a woman. But in my years as a counselor and as a life coach, I came to realize that some of the very things I classified as a female need, I began to meet men who also had those needs. And at first it was confusing to me, and I thought, this guy is crazy, this guy is weak. No, he wasn't weak, it was just a need. He was stronger in some areas. What was strange also is that there were things that I was saying to, that I believe was a female need, and I've talked to women and I said, no, I don't really need that from him. And I thought to myself, oh. So everybody's different. You don't have a textbook to help you to understand. Each individual comes with a different need. And if you try to understand them from a textbook perspective, that's why the Bible says to the man, husbands, relate with your wife, deal with your wife, treat with your wife based on knowledge, which is that you have to make her a study. That a man's job is to ensure that he is discovering who she is, not based on the 4 and 5 relationships he's had in the past. That may be a place of reference, but she comes unique and different. And his function is to ensure that he studies her and understands her need, understands her pattern, so that he can relate with her based on that. And a man who takes the time to do that will be a happy man. So, I'm not qualified to speak much, even though I believe that I've learned a few things from females. I have a wife that I love dearly, and I have 8 sisters. So I have a lot of women in my life. And so, based on my interactions with my sisters, watching my sisters, because even though I'm younger than most of my sisters, my calling and my assignment as a pastor and as a minister allows me to relate with my sisters in that is not consistent with my birth order. So I am their younger brother, but I'm their big brother. So it allows me to have access to them and to understand them and to understand females in a way that I otherwise would have not been able to. So, but that in itself does not qualify me to speak on the issues of female authoritatively. But I think I understand to some degree what's important to all women. But I want to talk about what's important to the man. Because I think that's where sometimes the confusion is. And I'll tell you why there's the confusion. It's, women are complex, but if you listen to them, you can learn a lot more, because women talk a lot. And if you listen, they can confuse you, but you learn. Men don't say anything. And so it's difficult to understand them, because there are times when their actions are not consistent with what they last said. Because when things are changing for a female, she's going to talk about some of those things going on. She's going to talk to somebody. Even if he is half asleep in front of the television with a remote, she's still going to be talking. But what he said a month ago may not be what he's dealing with today, because he does not always speak about the changes in his own emotions and what's happening in his life the way a woman would talk about. So, but I help you to understand, and there are things that men will not talk about, at least not with a female. So I want to share some of those things tonight. Is that all right? Yes. Now you have to promise me that you will not tell them that I tell you. All right?
Wait.
So, the first thing that's important to a man is respect. Now, I had some challenges years ago when I was working with a men's organization that I started. It was actually an NGO. And we tried to reach out to men, particularly men in communities where there was a high incidence of domestic violence, to understand why we were having this high rate of domestic violence in that community. And we heard that word,
very often. She's disrespecting me, men will say. She's disrespectful. So we started a dialogue on respect. And I was blown away when we talked with men about their definition and understanding of respect. It's very interesting what a man sees as respect or what a man sees as disrespectful. So, a couple of things that guys talked about that they consider to be disrespectful. So one guy says, when I come home at the end of the day and she's on the phone, when I come to the house and she's still on the phone, she's disrespecting me. And I said, what? You gotta be kidding me. Yeah, you know, I come home, I've been out all day, whoever she's talking with on the phone, can't be more important than me. And I said, wow, you guys are serious. The guy says if he's drinking with his buddies and she comes and she calls out his name loud, that's disrespectful. Okay. So we began to drill in what was at the root of all of this. These were just the manifestations, but something was deeper. What really men wanted that they would interpret a very simple and innocent thing like that as disrespectful. And so through research and my own bit of reading and interaction with men, I've learned that men desperately want respect, particularly from the woman that's in their life, the woman that they share their life with. And so that is something that you should ask if you have any doubts at all. I'm sure most if not all of you would share an intimate relationship with a significant other. So it's important for a man, but he will not say it, but it's important for him to know that he is respected. The thing about respect is that it has to be earned. That's something that you can demand. And it's very difficult sometimes when men are not able to understand that, because I'll tell you part of the challenge. Part of the challenge I have found is that not many of our men, and it's a unique circumstance, but not many of our men have had the opportunity to really be mentored by men who themselves understand the male mandate. So there is so much that a mother can teach a son. There is so much an influential female can impart to a boy. But there's a part of a male development that requires the affirmation of a significant male in his life that helps him to emerge and to have that male identity emerge, and help him to understand that your greatest strength as a man is not your physical prowess or your sexual prowess, but your greatest strength as a man is to know that you're strong, but you can express tenderness and affection and have an appreciation and understanding of when it should be expressed. You understanding that? And that is something that really every boy growing up, most women teach their sons to be a man first before they teach him to be a human being. So we say things to our sons that enforces the need for them to be masculine in the sense of, why are you crying? So he comes in and he's crying. Why are you crying? Boys don't cry. We are teaching him to lock down that part of his humanity, to accentuate the masculinity rather than to understand his humanity, because a human will cry, because a human has emotions. So when we tell the boy you're not supposed to cry, only girls cry, we are saying to him, shut it down. So he's in a relationship with a female and she touches him in a way that he can't fight, that his muscles don't take care of because it's messing with his heart, and he doesn't know how to deal with that. So in order to protect himself from being vulnerable emotionally, he becomes very physically aggressive because he's struggling on the inside, because he cannot give any indication that he is struggling emotionally, because that's not male. Mommy says boys don't cry. One of my daughters gave me a book many years ago. It says, Men Cry. That's big on the cover, and then in the very small font at the bottom, it says, in the dark. Men cry in the dark. And I looked at the book and I thought to myself, this is so true. They're hiding. They're hurting, but they're hurting privately. Am I saying anything that you don't know? No. Okay. So, simply put, a man wants to know that his thoughts, his ideas, his actions, his feelings, that they are considered with merit, that they're not ignored, and they're not pushed aside, that they're not treated lightly. If a man opens up and talks about what he feels and how he is dealing with whatever might be a struggle in his life, it's not as simple as it is for a female to do that. When a man opens up about deep emotional issues, very often it's a very deliberate step for him, and those are things that he wants to be taken seriously. And so the issue of respect has to do with a man having the understanding that the female in his life, she appreciates the very effort he makes to share those things that are important to him. So giving meaning to his thoughts, to his ideas, giving recognition to them. So here is what's important for us to know. God created men as functional beings. Early on, Minister Jackie made an example. And I'm going to tell you why that is so. She talked about the fact that a man having a job, working, is important to a man. I'll tell you why that is so. If you go back to Genesis, when God created man, the very first thing God gave to man was work. Well, before that, he gave him his presence. He says, now this is where you will function from. You will function from Eden. And the word Eden is not a geographical place, really. The word Eden does not mean a garden. The word Eden means pleasant, a pleasant place, which speaks of the presence of God. Because Eden really is an atmosphere. So God says, this is where you will function from. You will function from my presence. So the very first thing that's important to a man to function out of his male mandate is to remain in the presence of God. But the second thing that God gave to man was work. Work. Now, the word work is not the same as the word labor. Our understanding of work comes from a very Marxist-Leninist kind of idea of labor. But work really came from the Greek word ergon. And the word ergon, which is the Greek for work, does not mean labor. Ergon actually means man's continuation of God's initiation of creation. Work is man's continuation of God's initiation of creation. So God initiated in creation. And work really is man continuing that in the earth. So the first thing God gave to man, apart from his presence, was what? Work. So God gave man work before he gave man a woman. I tell you why that's important for a man. God gave man work before he gave man a woman. Why is that important for a man? Because a man is functional, he gets his identity. Man gets his meaning not from woman. Man gets his meaning from work. If a man can't work, function, if a man can't function, you are taking away his sense of being, the sense of who he is. Yes, he needs a woman for sex and all the other things, but if a man is not able to work, if a man can't function, whether it is in the bedroom or the boardroom, whether it's, if he can't do, because that's where he gets his sense of meaning. Because man was created to do. A woman was created differently. She was not created functionally. A woman was created relationally. So a woman will stress over relationships. A man stresses over not being able to function. A man gets up and he can't work and he can't provide for his family. That is stress for him. If a woman is struggling, she's going to stress differently over the fact that the resources or the money is not an issue of her identity. The absence of resource for a woman is different. It threatens her security. And at the top of a woman's list is security. I discovered that. I discovered that from relating with females in my life, counseling. Big up there for her is security. And security is spelled differently for a female. The security for a woman has to do with the issue of ensuring, number one, that whoever she is in a relationship with, that he is going to protect that space, that no other female will come in there and mess with her life. That's our first level of security. She doesn't want to know that she's number one. She wants to know that she's only one.
That's right. That's right.
And for her, the security is to know that you, mister, will not compromise that by allowing another female to come into that space.
That's right.
That's big for her. She will stress also when the security of those that she cares for is threatened. That our children and the home, those are important things for her. Don't compromise that.
Amen.
And so women will make those decisions, and in as much as there are times when people say that women are emotional, that's true, but that's not a full description and definition of who they are. They can be very deliberate and clinical in the way they think, particularly when their security is threatened. So a lot of times when females make decisions, they're making decisions that affects them and that which they consider to be important in their life. And the big one is security, emotional security for the person that she cares about. She gives you her heart, don't mess with it. Secure it, protect it. And the space that she considers to be your home, which is you, the children, the dog and the parrot, and everything that she cares about. So, for the man, however, for him, it's functionality. He has to be able to function. So, I asked a few brothers the question one time, what happens if you wake up one day and you're able to function sexually? What do you do? I tell you, 90% of the guys in the room said they go kill themselves. Because for them, they define their meaning in life, they attach the meaning in life to their sexuality. If they are unable to function sexually, that's the end of their life. And that's the way a lot of us have been raised as men, to believe that your identity as a male is attached to your sexuality. And that's a very dangerous thing for any man, to think that his worth as a man is attached to sex. That who he is attached to his sexuality. So, there are a lot of young guys, particularly in the community I grew up in, they use a lot of stuff. These bush things we boil up, you know, all kind of stuff. And the idea is put things in your back, strengthen your back. Yes. And what's sad about that is that men are always talking about putting stuff in their back, but nothing in their head. Yes. Which is sad. Because I can tell you, lots of women I know, they're concerned about what you have in your head. So men derive their sense of dignity from their functionality. Did I say that? So when you rob a man of his ability to function, you strip him of his dignity as a male. So when a man shares his feelings, for example, his ideas, or he does something that is significant, and you ignore him, or you treat it lightly, his mind says that you are disrespectful, because what you are doing is ignoring his functionality as a male. May I help you sisters with anything? All right. So when you take time to acknowledge his actions or his ideas, it means that you think that he is important, and you show it with your actions. Second thing that's important to a man is admiration. And admiration actually goes hand in hand with respect for a man, right? So guys typically love admiration. A lot of the motivation that goes into male going to the gym, for example, or ensuring that apart from the fact that men are very competitive, and the male psyche, I've not done my research, so don't hold me on this, but I've not done my research, but I believe the male psyche, apart from the old historical aspect of how men have functioned, coming from the traditional construct of the family, the male psyche and his understanding of his gender role, of being the provider, protector of the family, ensures that a man puts himself in a situation where he is capable of protecting his family. But outside of that, a man spends a lot of time on his physical strength, because there is interest in his psyche also, a desire for admiration. So a lot of guys go to the gym and they work out and get buff, because part of their psyche is so that they could be also attractive. Jackie said it earlier,
men started to wear high heels. If in many of the earlier cultures, men wore a lot more fandangles than women did.
Yes.
Weren't the women who started with a lot of the stuff? Men. There was, particularly the Roman community. Are you there? I mean, these brothers, you could not dress more than the earrings and the nose rings and stuff. Part of, and I'll tell you part of it. Man is created in the image of God, and God loves praise.
Yeah.
You praise a man, you'll be shocked to see what he will do. He would outdo himself. I don't care if he's half dead and sick. You praise a man, he will function. Because somewhere in his psyche there's a need. So a man spends time on his car, making sure his car looks good, and making sure that he goes to the gym and works out. Part of it, apart from his the importance of his health, is the whole issue of a man needing admiration as well. And so guys seem to have that radar there. Somewhere it's something I try to teach my boys, because I have a young adult and a teenager. And try to have them to understand, as they navigate their way through life and in relating with females, things that they need to be sensitive to that can impact on them as men, to ensure they are protecting themselves from making mistakes in life. There is something that is in the male psyche that has always been a weapon. And ladies, you know this. You might not define it the way I do, but you know this. You know this more than I do. The one thing that a man, a functional male, and I have to clarify that, because there's some brothers who are challenged with respect to how their brain works. But a functional male, a male who understands his place and his role and is functioning normally, a functional male, one thing that will always impact on a functional male is what I refer to as the damsel in distress syndrome. A functional male will always respond to a damsel in distress.
Yes.
And the unfortunate thing about that is that it is one of the most powerful weapons that women have that they work against us with. A brother is brought to his knees when she starts to cry, and she starts. It's a rare man who will walk away from her. Are you there? A woman who has a need, whether it's emotional or otherwise, a man responds to that. And I've always, well, not always, but I try to teach my sons that you do not have to respond to every need, because there are some circumstances that will be created that you respond to that traps you into something that you can't get out of. And sisters, don't beat me up on this, but there are times when there is God has given every one of us our individual strengths and abilities, and we work them, and we know how to work them. Say amen, sisters. When a woman, I can go out on that highway and I get a flat, and I will stand there for 2 hours trying to get someone to help me. And I promise you, if I go out on the highway and my wife gets a flat, and she steps out there, within 10 minutes, you're gonna have 2 or 3 brothers coming out there to help. I promise you it's going to happen. There's something about a damsel in distress that a man responds to. Some people use it for good, some for evil. But it speaks also to what a man responds to. When a man understands his functionality and he recognizes that he is needed, and I'm going to talk about that later. When a man recognizes that he is needed, that goes to his testosterone. Because it is, a man needs to know he is needed. He gets his identity from knowing that I am needed. As
psyche, the way a man has been socialized and raised, you've been raised properly, is that men take care of business. Men take responsibility. Are you there? Okay. Now, feel free if you have any questions. Feel free. All right. It's a discourse. So, companionship. You have a question? Go ahead.
I have a question that goes back to what you were saying. I love the damsel in distress syndrome. But what about the men? You talked about the nature of men to work. There are a number of men, young men, mature men in age that don't want to work. What is that syndrome?
Yeah, that's a dysfunctional male. It's a dysfunctional male, and I say it without apology. It is the way we have taught. If a male has been raised right, he will be raised with the understanding that men take responsibility. Regardless of how much money a female is working for in a relationship, the male takes responsibility to ensure that the family and how we manage, whether he decides that she will spend all of her money or not, that's his decision to make. But a man who is functional does not leave the responsibility for the ordering of the family to the wife. It's not biblical. God has established a principle, which is the order is this. God is the head. Jesus Christ submits to God as a son. The man submits to Christ, and the woman submits to the man. When the Bible teaches that the man is the head of the wife, headship is not speaking of dominance, or it's not speaking of ownership. The man being the head of the wife means the man is the covering. Now, the word head there means covering. The man is the covering. So the covering of the woman is the man, which means he covers her. She submits to him, so he covers her. And it is a divine order that God has established. So the man does not get any superiority from his maleness. The man has a difference, or there's a differential of responsibility. The female has a different responsibility to the male. The men have, and so years ago I had a discourse with, when I was in government, some of our ministers who pretty much, they were proponents of the, what we call, is it equal rights? Is it equal rights? Is that what they call it? The equal rights thing. And I said, I don't believe in equal rights. And some of my colleagues, female ministers, they were offended by it. I said, I don't believe in equal rights. You should not suggest that there should be equal, women should be treated the same way a man is treated. That's not right. That's not justice. What I believe is gender justice, which is, and this is the way I explain gender justice. If you come into a room and you're saying that a woman should be treated the same way as a man, and you have a 200-pound cartoon to lift, you're saying, well, regardless of if there's male or female in the room, let the woman lift it. That's not right. Biologically, there's a difference in the role and the functioning. There's some things that you should not let a woman do. So this is my understanding, that what you need is not equal rights, what you need is gender justice, which means that a female must not be treated differently as it relates to her privileges, primarily because she's a female. So if she's qualified for the job, her gender must not become an issue. But there is a differential in the way society functions, which is, if you go into a crowded place, for example, equal rights determines the man remains seated and let the woman stand. Because if you want equal rights, well then if the man has to stand, let the woman stand. But that's not the way society functions. In any decent society, you give preference to the female. The Bible said so. So when you're saying that you ignore those differentials, what you're going to have is a society where boys are going to be raised with a disregard and a disrespect for the difference that should be given to a female. And I don't want to live in a society where men are raised to think that women should not be treated differently. What I do not agree with is that women should be treated unjustly. That's what I disagree with. But I believe that women ought to be treated differently by virtue of the fact that they are women. And they must be treated, the Bible said so, as the
When the Bible says that a weaker vessel, it does not mean inferior vessel, it means tender vessel. Weaker in the sense of tender, not inferior, which means in the way you would treat a rose. Are you saying that?
Yeah.
You treat her with some amount of delicacy, with a delicateness. Hello. All right. So, a society that is properly functional, male take responsibility. Males will work. Females work too. In today's society, in today's contemporary society, there is the need for a dual income. Most societies, there's a need for a dual income. The way things are functioning today. But for a male to be comfortable not taking the responsibility of work is a denial of his fundamental God-given responsibility and role. When God created man, God said to him, work, you tend the garden, ergon, you take care of, tend it. And if you tend it, it will take care of you. And so, how that is taught in our first place of socialization, which is the family, is very critical. That is why, and part of what my wife has been doing with our boys, because we only have sons in our home, is to ensure that they understand that there are things that men do, which is men take responsibility. We both work on that, but there's some aspect that I do as a father, there's something that she does. So as it relates to them learning to cook, and learning to keep the house, and learning to keep their room, and learn to keep their clothing, so that they understand that men take responsibility. I have counseled with people who are struggling from different communities because the boys were not raised to assume responsibility. They eat and they leave everything right there. Their sisters would come and take care of it. They come home and they leave everything there and their sisters will take care of it. So they get married and they expect the wife to pick up after them along the way. And you have problems in those marriages because those wives were raised in families where that was not the order. They were not raised to walk around and pick up after a man. They were raised to ensure that they function in partnership and relationship. Am I helping you with anything? Wherever a male refuses to work, he is a dysfunctional male. I say so, and the Bible says. I will not apologize for saying that. If the female has had an opportunity to qualify herself and she earns a certain level of income that is greater than the man, that is not a definition of or an indication that the man is inferior. Are you there? It's more money to spend. It's greater security for the family. But the challenge, I believe, is there are times when we have not been deliberate in how we have taught our folks about the dynamics involved in a healthy relationship. So I've had this situation in times past where females working for a lot of money, the man unconsciously begins to feel as though he's not measuring up. And I try to help brothers to understand, brother, why are you allowing it to get to your brain? Is she making you feel that way? No. But why are you thinking that way? Well, you know, it's probably going through her mind, but she doesn't say it. Well, that's the challenge with relationships. You have to understand the person you're married to, the person you're in a relationship with. And so if the issue of finance becomes one where a superior attitude develops, we have problems. So one, a woman has to be taught also that a relationship is a partner, a marriage is a partnership. Where we bring, my wife and I, when we got married, part of what I believe has contributed to our own, and I'm not holding out our marriage as necessarily an exemplary one, but I believe we have a great marriage. I am confident we have a great marriage because I'm not unhappy. I am a very happy man. I am happy every night. Part of what helps us in our relationship is because very early we establish the framework of what will help us. So there was not a distinction of or a separation of resource. So we have always had joint accounts. It has not harmed us because all of what we've been able to do, all of the homes we've bought, all of the properties we've bought, all of the vehicles we've bought, everything we've had, our children's education, we cannot say at any given point, this is my money or her money. We are not sure where the line has been crossed, and that was years ago. We've always had a singular goal. So we've always pooled our resources. Whatever she works for, whatever, it goes into one account. She has a car, I have a car. I don't ask her to show me the bills at the end of the month. She don't ask me to show me the bills, and we spend. We have an understanding of what we are working towards. There might be times when I have a particular priority because I like nice things, and I kind of like a nice vehicle, and I like my vehicle looking a certain way, and I like a nice sound system in my vehicle. You know, I like nice music. So there are times when maybe I want to spend a little on, you know, a little upgrade on the vehicle, and that's not a priority for her. We got these kids' school fees to think about. But we've always managed to come to a middle ground. I don't think we've had any major issue where, you know, we have had to have counseling over our spending. And part of the reason for that, like I said, is the way we function in terms of the partnership. And I'll tell you, many years ago, well not many, but a few years ago, there was a Father's Day program just like this, but it was organized by the government. So most of us as men who were in government, we were asked to bring our sons. Our sons would introduce their fathers. So my older son, he was at university at the time, and so brought him with me, and so he's introducing me. You know, so I'm excited because, you know, I want to hear what my son is going to introduce me and so on. So he's introducing me and he says, you know, a lot of my friends says to me that, you know, they wish they had a dad like mine, and my dad is smart and so on. And I'm waiting for him to talk about all these great things his father is. And then he says, you know, the one thing I love about my dad the most is the way he treats my mom. He says, they're like partners. They like do everything together. And he sat down and I'm thinking, that's it? That's it. But as we were driving home, I pondered on it and I realized that was the most important thing to him. Nothing else. He didn't say anything like my dad got a PhD or he's a member of parliament. None of that. That's not important to him. You treat my mother like crap, you got a PhD, it don't mean nothing to me. That basically is what he was saying. So I think the evidence of that in terms of how we work together is manifest for my children, and so they understand it. I think that if there's one thing that I can say is our strength is the fact that we tend to pool a lot of our resources and our thoughts, and it helps us. It does help. So we don't fight over those things. It's answering a question. It's a long answer to a short question. But the whole issue of the responsibilities of a male in a relationship. There are times when I have a friend who, she's a decision maker, a manager in an organization she worked with, very senior. And one time she was very, very frustrated. She said to me, you know, I'm done, I'm quitting this marriage. I said, why are you doing that? And she began to share with me about some of her frustrations with her husband. And can you hear me in the back? Okay. And I said to her, you can't leave this guy now. I said, that's, you need to help this guy. She says, no, I'm not helping him. Why? And I says, you know, I'll tell you the truth. Who you are today is because of this guy. Because of your husband. She says, what? She says, Pastor, I'm surprised you would tell me that. I'm disappointed in you. He has not helped me in one bit. He just frustrated my life. I said, no, you have become who you are because of this guy. And I'll show you why that is so. And I said to her, I said, the reason you are such a strong leader in your organization, it is because your husband is not a decision maker. And you have had to make all of these decisions because he refused to step up to the plate. Think about if he was the decision maker in your family, if he was making all the decisions on the home, you would not have been as strong as you are and as good as you are. You need to thank this brother for making you become who you are. She would not agree with me. She was so upset that I would even think that he was worth saving. She says, you were actually terrible. I would just quit on his behind. I'm not. And I said, no, you can't do that. You need to thank this brother. Now it's your turn to help him become. She didn't quite like the sound of that because she was really hurting. And I can understand her hurt because he was very laid back. But God doesn't make mistakes. In areas where we might be deficient, God brings people in our lives who complement that. And there are times when complementing is not just about them fitting it. This is not complementary. This is complementary, which is they fit in an area where you are lacking. And in areas where that person might be weak, their weakness contributes in some ways to you becoming strong. Are you following?
Yes.
So there are a lot of butting of heads in relationship because we don't quite understand how we can actually benefit from areas in which the other person might be thinking. But part of the challenge we do have is that we don't have a lot of people who have had the opportunity of someone speaking into their lives and helping them to understand some of those areas of dysfunction that can actually harm the relationship. Because I can tell you this, there's only so much a female can take. If you too laid back, because I can tell you this much I've learned in my relationship with my wife and my sisters and my daughters, is that women want to know that the man in their life, that he is going to take action when action needs to be taken. That he is going to make a decision when a decision needs to be made. Very often, while she is going to contribute to the process of that decision making, women like to know that the man is leading where he needs to lead. I saw your hand. I'm not ignoring you. Some years ago, I called in about 6 young men and I said to them, "Are you guys ready for a divorce?" I deliberately did that. I looked out at the congregation. They were all married between 1 and 5 years. They were newlyweds. 5 or 6 of them, I can't remember. I think it was 6 of them. And I asked my secretary to call them and arrange for them to meet me the same time at my office. So they all came and they weren't sure why they were all there. It says, "You meeting Bishop?" "Yeah." "You meeting Bishop?" "Yeah." "Well, this is serious." So they came in and they sat in the office. I looked at them, I says, "Are you guys ready for a divorce?" And they were like, "What?" And so I says, this past month, I met with 5 wives and they all want divorce. They were like, "My wife?" You could see these brothers were like, "This is crazy." And I said, "No, not your wives." I said, "The reason I called you guys is because I can start with you. I can start with you." A lot of times what happens is that men are struggling not because they want to fail. I have not met one man in my lifetime, and I've not lived that long, but I've not met one man who gets up one morning and decides, "You know what, I'm going to fail as a man," or "I'm going to destroy my family today." But yet men are failing all the time and men are destroying their families every day. But they don't set out to do that. But why is it happening? And I tell you what I've realized. It's happening because a lot of us as leaders, and I've seen it a lot in the Christian community, we share a lot of licks, but we don't fix a lot of the problems. So we beat up on men when they're not doing well, but we are not helping them to do better. So we say a lot of stuff from the pulpit, but when it comes to really getting down in the trenches and working with brothers who really want to do better, we don't have the patience for that. Are you there? And I have found that a lot of men, most men, you have to really come after them. Men you don't have to come after women mostly. They got a problem. You say, "What's happening to you, baby? Come and talk to me. You really look like somebody." She said, "Nah, man. Come on, sweetie. Come on. It's me you're talking to. It's Pastor you're talking to." In 20 minutes, she can tell you what's going on. You go to a brother, "What's up, bro?" "No, man, I'm all right." "Yeah, cool. And then he goes in his car and he sits there. He's not even tell us so. That's why men die younger from all kinds of stress-related diseases. They die faster than women do because they keep it inside. So it's harder to minister to them, so you have to chase them down. You have to stay in their face. You have to bully them. And so years ago, I said to the guys working with me on the council, one of the prerequisites to work with me on the council is that you have to give me access to your family. If you're going to be on my council, I have to have access to your wife. And when I say access, I mean, right? Which is I have to be able to ask your wife, "How is he doing?"
Yeah.
You can't be upset me asking your wife how you're doing because I found out one lady, she was so upset. She said to me one time, she says, the next time he goes on that pulpit, I'm going to embarrass him. Because he should not be up there preaching. This is one of my leaders. Because stuff was going on in the family that he did not want me to know. But the lady was upset. And I thought, no, this can't happen. So I needed to find out from the ladies how the brother was doing. And that opened up an opportunity for me to begin a process of working with the brothers. And I realized through that process that lots of the brothers were dealing with things, but they don't want to talk. The last person they want to talk to is the pastor, because they want the pastor to see them differently, because that's a man of God.
That's right.
Well, every man needs a man in his life. Every man needs a man in his life. Because we all struggle with stuff. Yes, yes.
I was going to ask you, like, when you talk about the dysfunction of some men, when they don't realize that they want to take up the responsibility that they need to take up, and I'm talking like, you know, they're in their 20s or whatever, and they're not working, not willing to work, not going out, not doing, not progressing, not moving. How do you turn that dysfunction around to make them function? Like, I mean, like, is this their life sentence then? I mean, like, how do you change it around to something positive?
Yeah, critical. Very, very good question. Now that's happening with a lot of our sons. It's painful to watch a lot of our sons just stay there for hours on that video game and they would not work, or they just go hang somewhere, or they just stay in their bed all day. Helping them to rediscover purpose. No, not rediscover, but discover. A lot of them don't even know. Years ago, there's a philosophy that most communities live by, which is it takes a village to raise a child, which means that it takes a community to positively influence the development of an individual. So one family was not left to raise a child in isolation of the village or the community. So there were various influences. Here's what I realized. I believe I'm a good communicator. I believe I'm a good communicator. But there are things that my older son did not say to me, but he said to other people that he was dealing with. Now, it would have been stupid for me to think, well, I'm your dad, you are supposed to tell me everything. No, that ain't true. You're not supposed to tell you everything. There are stages of a child's development where they will bounce things off of people that's outside of you, and you have to give them the liberty to do that. What's important is to have a relationship with that community, that it comes back to you in a way that's helpful to the process of your child's development.
That's right.
Because if your child is challenged, and I'll tell you part of the reason why they're challenged that way. My son said to me some years ago, we were in a prayer meeting, and I asked the folks to pray with each other, so I went over to pray with him because he was playing the keyboard. And I went over to pray with him, and I says to him, is there anything you want us to pray about? He was silent. The older one, he's very outspoken. And he prayed for a little while, and he says, yeah. He says, I'd like you to pray and ask the Lord to help you to understand me. And I said, what? What are you talking about? So he said to me, he said, you know, Daddy, a lot of times, the only time I hear from you is when you're upset with things I'm not doing right. And I am sure that there are things that I have done right that you don't say. But you only say when I get it wrong. I wanted to cry, but I was the father, so I couldn't cry. But it hit me in the core of my being, because he was like about 17 at the time, and I understood at that moment I could lose my son. Because in my desire to push him to be great, I am not understanding this process of his own development. There are times when, and one day he said it to me, he said it to me, he says, I may not get it when you guys think, well, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it eventually. I may not get it right now, but I'm going to get it eventually. It was difficult for me to understand it, because I wanted him to get it now, because I understand the dangers. If you don't get it now, you may never get it, or you may get it too late. And I can't do anything to fix it then. So there are other people, and he asked me, he says, could I talk with XY person? I said, sure, because this is a friend of mine, he's not a minister. And I said, sure, feel free, talk with him. Because I know eventually, this guy's not going to counsel him in a negative way. This is somebody I respect. And I respect him, you know, to counsel my wife. And you better say good, you better be decent in your mind to counsel my wife. And so when he told me about this pastor, he says, is it okay if I talk with him? I said, sure, go talk with him. Because I realized that my son will need all of the positive influences he can get in his life. So there are times when it's difficult for us as parents because in our haste and in our desire to get them to move in a certain direction, our motives might be great, but our methods can be flawed as parents. And sometimes we harm our kids because even though we have great motives, we have the wrong method in how we are trying to work with them. And rather than help them, we are actually pushing them away. So to motivate them, we have to work with them and understand the level of their development. My younger boy, for example, you know, he is a social butterfly. He believes that his assignment on this planet is to make the world happy. So he is going to try to make everybody's in it to his own detriment. He would ignore his work to go help somebody. The teacher would say to me back in the Caribbean where we live, if she can't find her pen, and she says, you know, I can't find, he leaves his work and he goes looking for her pen. If a child's pencil falls on the ground, he stops what he's doing, he go gets the pencil. He wants to help the world. But you gotta focus on you, sir. He says, but you know, they needed my help. And you know, girls, they would use that. They got him fetching their bag and, no, you are not fetching anybody's bag. But I gotta help them, Daddy. I says, no, you not got it. You don't have to help nobody. I'm saying to myself, no, you shouldn't teach this child like that. But I want him to understand that you come first. So I get upset with him when he's not focusing on the things I think is important. And so it wasn't helping because I'm always yelling at him, And there's this girl from my church back in Guyana who she studied child psychology. So I called her one day. I says, you know, Eddie? She said, yeah. I says, well, you know, you gotta help me with Eddie. Eddie is... So I tell her, and I spent like about half an hour telling her what the situation is, and then she said to me, she said, Bishop, you need to change. I said, excuse me? She says, you need to change your attitude. She said, number one, you need to stop being angry with him. You need to stop yelling at him. And you need to work with him. You're the one that needs to change, not Eddie. I just hung up the phone. I thought she'd forgive me. I was in Guyana a few days ago. She says, yeah, she remembers. She's upset. You don't want to hear me. You don't like to be told the truth. I said, I didn't call you to tell me I have to change. I call you to help me with my son. But I realized in that process that parenting is a challenge. We don't always have it right. We talk about parenting, we're not supposed to talk about parenting tonight.
Yes, there's single parents.
But we need a wider community to help us with our children.
Yes.
And that is what I recognize. So I don't believe, I really don't believe that I can parent my children alone. And my wife either. There are people they're exposed to. One thing my wife does is that she tries to get my boys to bring their friends home so that she can see them and know what kind of family they're a part of. Who are these kids you're with when you're out of the home? So we have an understanding of the context of their socialization when they're away from the house. Because they are exposed to an environment that we don't always control. But what's important is for you also to be deliberate in bringing good people into their environment. If you think someone has a positive influence, introduce your child to that person. Create an opportunity for your child to be in that environment with that person so that they can motivate that individual. Are you there? Motivate your child. So that's a long answer to a short question. But when a child has given up on pursuing life, we can't give up on them and pursuing their goals or pursuing independence. It's necessary to find resource in the environment, people that you are connected with. That's why I said it requires a village to connect with that person. Most pastors I know are great orators, and we can motivate, but not all pastors. Sometimes our kids don't like pastors to talk to them. I can tell you that, because first thing they come at them with is this Jesus stuff. And some kids, they don't want you to come at them with this Jesus stuff. You there? Yeah. I want you to be real. I'll give you another example quickly. Forgive me for going on like this, but it might be useful. One day I'm at my office, this is back in Guyana, and a young lady called me. She don't call me. Our parents, our members, our leaders in my church. Never really had a conversation with her per se, because you know she's a strange child. She doesn't really relate well. She's not a social person. And she called and she said, Bishop, could I see you? I said, sure. You want to come this afternoon? She said, no. I said, sure. She said, can you come? Where? She says, at school. I'm at school.
says, you want me to come to your school? She says, yes. I realize this has to be serious. Because I know her parents are very serious people. She's calling me to come to the school. I'm thinking, okay. So I got there, got to the school, she came up and she sat in my vehicle, and so we're talking. I want to hear this because she never really spoke to me before. This is one of those children who don't really talk to the pastor. She says, I really want to talk with you because you're cool. I was going to ask her again, what did you say? But I says, all right, let me play along. She says, you're cool. And she says, in fact, you kind of understand, kids, you understand me more than my parents do. And I'm thinking, I understand you. We never really talk. And she began to share some stuff with me that she needed some advice on. It had to do with relationships. And I said to her, you talk to your parents? She says, no, my mom's going to kill me if she know I'm even talking about this. I said, yeah, I know how your mom is, and so on. And we began to talk about some of the challenges. And eventually I said to her, your parents will have to know, okay? They will have to know. There's not something you need to keep from them. But there's a way you have to approach this. And we talked. When I left that day, it dawned on me that all of our children, they need to know that there is somebody that they can talk to when we are emotionally inaccessible. Because trust me, you can be a great parent, but there can be times when you're going to be emotionally inaccessible. Because they can't get through to you. Whatever's going on in your life, they will not be able to get through to you every time. Your kids must know that they have a support group outside of that. And it's our job to help to create that for them. Are you there? Yes. Have to create that for them. So it's important for them to know that there are some people in your life that they also can reach out to if they need that. But be deliberate in engaging them. Get persons to come. I've had leaders who have done that. They've had difficult kids and they've invited me to the house and says, he's in the basement, Pastor, you want to go? And I go to them and I says, what are you playing, man? Let's have some fun. What are you playing? What game? I have no idea what he's playing, but I got to pretend as though I know the game. Either one of the things I did with my kids is that they listen to this music that I don't like. It's rock heavy music. They say it's gospel, Bishop. I says, that's not gospel. That's junk. That's crazy. And then one day, one of them, she's my goddaughter, she says, Dad, she called me Dad, she says, Dad, you gotta listen to this. So I listened to it, and man, I'm telling you, I'm saying, what in the world these kids are listening to? But I listened to it long enough so she doesn't feel bad. And then I says, this is not good for your spirit. She says, no, and she starts to tell me the message behind the song. Of course I didn't hear any message. All I heard was noise. And so I says, oh, that's a really great story. I said, let me hear it again. So I'm listening. Boy, I can't hear anything she told me. I'm not even hearing the lyrics. All I'm hearing is the noise. So we started a discourse about this music. And after a while, every time there's a new one out, what's the name? Skillet? Skillet was the name? Skillet is the name of the group. Skillet. Every time there's a new song by Skillet, she brings it. She says, you gotta hear this one. So after a while, they're always bringing these songs to me. And I started to listen to them. And I'm listening. Deliberately, sometimes I'll go on YouTube and find a few and listen to it and say, I heard that one, it sounds great, and I'll tell him what I heard, and they say, yeah, he's listening to the music. It opened up an opportunity for me to access them, and so I had access to them now through the music they were listening to. I started to point them in a different direction. You there? Amen. Because I tell you something I've learned about kids. Correction without relationship will always bring rebellion. And sometimes what we do is that we try to correct them without the existence of a relationship, and they rebel. So your children are not just your children. Your children are also people that also needs guidance. A young man, he was 42 years old, he was speaking at the conference, and here's what he said. He was talking about his dad, and he said, he was playing with his dad, threw the ball, his dad was trying to fix his truck. And he threw it away, he threw it again, and the dad threw it away and says, listen to me. If you want to play, go find your friends. I'm not your friend. And he was 42 years old when he was sharing that experience, and you could hear the bitterness in his voice at that time in his life. He never got past that because his dad said to him, I'm not your friend. Your children need you to be their friend too. Being their friend doesn't mean that you are removing the lines. You can keep the line but still be their friend. Because I tell you, when they need the advice of a friend and not a parent, are you hearing me? They must know that they can also find a friend in their parent. Hello, somebody? So, I celebrate my wife's relationship with my boys
And I hear her talking with them about stuff that are, you know, real down to earth stuff related to females and sex, and they're comfortable talking. And I'm glad about that, because it allows them to understand issues from a female perspective that they're not embarrassed to talk with their mother about. Man, I've not even shared a quarter of what I want to talk with you, but my time is done. I hope you at least learned one thing about us as men, and you have to create an opportunity for me to finish off. There are like about 10, I've only talked about 2. So, thank you.
Oh.